So, as computer science teachers, we're as endangered a species as all of those other animals up there. Year on year, people are dropping out of the profession. We're not even recruiting enough people. Oh, there's the animations for it. Oh, well. Bottom line, that's the reality of what was actually recruited into new teachers over these years. Top line was the target. There's a bit of gap here, and we don't actually have those skills to actually encourage new people into teaching and to encourage those students to actually carry on what we're passionate about into further jobs. And that makes us sad. And just to add one more thing, there's over 40,000 teachers that left the profession just last year. Some of it's going to be through natural attrition, so retirement, moving into other jobs, but the vast majority is people moving into completely different sectors that are not at all related to teaching anymore. So, to frame a bit of context as to how many teachers actually have a qualification that's relevant. Over 60% have no post-A-level qualifications relevant to the subject. Of the rest, about 28% have a qualification that is in some way relevant, and the rest have just a qualification, might not be in computing in the slightest. And when I say relevant degree, you're probably thinking these. But these are just a small sample of the ones that are actually relevant, according to the government statistics. And don't know about you, some of them seem more relevant than others. French studies with computing doesn't feel like it's going to be that heavy on the computing and more heavy on the je ne parle français. But if we look at the hours taught, it's a little bit of a better picture. So last chart is still up there in top left for you. But the hours taught, yeah, there are more hours taught by people with an actual degree in the subject or a relevant degree in the subject. And that's the number of people we have taking GCSEs and A-levels this last year. It's quite male-heavy, especially in computer science. And you realistically also thinking, okay, so we've got that many people being taught by that many people. There's not going to be a consistent quality education to get them in the door to a good university that they want to go to. And then somewhere in that 0.1% of people with a relevant qualification, I'm not saying mine is entirely relevant, you've got little old me. That's my background. That's some stuff about me. I have a degree in computer forensics and security. I'm probably one of one in the country that's got a degree in forensics and security and is a teacher. If there's anybody else, let me know. I would like a friend. I do some union stuff as well. I'm not going to bang on too much about it. There is a pay campaign at the moment. Please support your teachers. But as a bit of a background as to the school I teach at, we're ranked number 1 in the Northwest, number 10 in the country. It's a good school. Those are the kind of grades we get, and I got us recognised by NCSE for Cyber First. How we deliver is way more than a lot of schools do. My stepson's school, for example, it works on a carousel. So they have a term of computing, term of resistant materials, a term of food tech. And if you're thinking that's not really enough, you're right. So even with all of that, what we do, we add some extra stuff on. So we've got code club, cybersecurity club, bit of lock picking in there. I do a D&D club because nerd. And we do the Cyber First Girls competition every year. And that's targeted at year 8, getting them interested early. And it works. It's worked consistently as we've gone through. But I'll give you a bit of a background to me, the weirdo that's in front of you. So, anyone from Nottingham in the room, by the way? 2 people. I'm surprised you actually put your hands up and admitted it. So, I went to a school called Weldon Comprehensive. It's now the Carlton Academy or something like that. When I was there, didn't really enjoy it. It also had a slight habit of being a bit, what's the word, flammable. Didn't really go well. Went to High Paper in 6th form. Didn't really enjoy that either. Took myself off to the Netherlands for a little bit. Met someone. Ooh. And back I come. And then somewhere in my A-levels, I decided to get a job that only a true nerd could possibly get at that time. And this company no longer exists. Yes, it was Maplin's. And the combination of all that and something that we'll come to a little bit later culminated in a slight tad bit of failure. I did not get the A-levels I wanted. Not in the slightest. So, what's a person to do with very few prospects in life? Oh yeah, bar job after bar job after bar job after bar job. And you're seeing BT there and thinking, oh, there's a bit of a techie hope. Nope, I was a 909 operator. Up until about 2008, and I don't know if there was something relevant that happened in 2008. Maybe a slight economic recession. So, yeah, didn't keep that job. But I did start being self-employed because that's what everyone did. Then I eventually applied to University of York, thinking, I'm a mature student now, I'm 20, something odd. Time to do something, so I'll apply for a course. What course should I apply? I know you've already seen the spoiler open to your forensics and security, thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be nerdy. Nah, nursing. This is taking on a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it? Rightfully, they had the good sense to go, nope. So then, obviously, carried on there. Did a bit of union stuff. Discovered unions were a thing. Was course rep, faculty officer, then VP education. And got a job as a systems admin in disability advice service at the university. That was cool. Got me really interested in different aspects of life. Because of that job at disability advice, it became much more apparent to me that I was dyslexic AF. And that kind of informed some of the earlier fun bits of my school career. I got to do some wonderful stuff with the union, set up my own data recovery service as part of the student union. Eventually decided teaching was the way to go because, one of my parents is a teacher, the other one's an information risk. Just do the two things in a weird way. Got a job at Alta Girls in 2018. And you're thinking now, I've been down this road with times and timelines before with him. Something happened a couple of years after that. So that spurred on a bit more of the union stuff and kind of expedited my way through union stuff, doing health and safety stuff, and then a bunch more boring things that no one actually cares about. But along the way, through my work, I was able to get school accredited by Cyber First. Gets me the experience to come in here to bore you today, and see where it goes. So, bury the lead a little bit. So, you've probably heard the phrase, those who can do, those who can't teach. I prefer a slightly more inspirational role model.
Because those that can't do, teach. And those that can't teach gym.
And that's why I don't teach PE, for that and other physicality-based reasons. But Jack Black was right. I couldn't do the whole working in an office, sat at a desk constantly, buzz happening around me for no particularly good reason, or working long into the night in a glass box that makes me sad and die inside, or the mountains of paperwork. And no, I'm not counting marking as paperwork. They are slightly different. Or that. I imagine that is probably half of your lives. But what I could do was share my knowledge and experience and my passion and stand in front of people and encourage people to be independent inquirers and watch them and celebrate the successes of them getting their GCSEs, their A-levels, and going through that whole school experience. I got to go on cool free trips. Really cool free trips. Got to see current work on Artemis. That was awesome. Got to take a photo with actual real-life astronaut who I probably made sick because look how pale and ill I am there. But I also got to touch a Falcon 9 rocket. How many of you have touched a Falcon 9 rocket? Doctor. Got to shake hands with a Tory. Not the worst Tory. He's all right. But got us recognised by Cyber First for what we deliver in our school. Got to run some capture flags and bestow a small passion for tiny rubber ducks. And apparently this person was having a lot of problems at that moment in time. But you could as well. You could inspire brilliant people to actually join the sector. Get them hanging off every tiny war story. My war stories are tiny, but they sound big in that classroom. Use your actual knowledge to go beyond this rubbish curriculum and actually go into detail on a lot of stuff. Top one's GCSE, top one's A-level. That's how much cybersecurity is actually in the national curriculum at the moment. I've seen some schools teach that, the GCSE stuff, both bits of that, in 2 lessons. If you're sitting there thinking that's not enough time to even scratch the surface, you're right. At A-level, it's just buried in with networks as an afterthought. But you can excite the students about the possibilities that are out there. You know what opportunities are out there for people. Get them excited with it. Drag more women into InfoSec careers. That one's a really important one for me, and there's a reason why I've not left that school. It is a same-sex school. It is a all-girls school. That's why I'm still there. And be a force of change rather than just doing the same thing we did when we were at school of learning how to use Word, Excel and PowerPoint, and if the teacher was feeling spicy, maybe a bit of Access. But there's a few reasons you didn't become a teacher. As a kid, you reeled and rebelled against authority, you had miserable role models that were counting down the days until the end of term. At uni, you wanted real money. You thought it was too much responsibility. You didn't want to spend more time at uni. As an adult, you can't stand kids, too much marking, and you feel like you're the oldest person in the world. But it's not the case. What I didn't realise about teaching was that when it comes to that, the nerdier stuff, you're going to be that expert in the room. That's been said before. You're probably the expert in the rooms that you're in already, but you are definitely going to be in a room full of teachers that struggle to even turn on the computer. So having that experience and some of that background knowledge to actually help them with the real world security threats that they will face is totally invaluable. You can add in those real world bits of knowledge. When I deliver my lessons, I always go, do you want the real world answer or the spec answer? Invariably, they want both, because they're greedy. But I give the real world answer to frame how the spec answer should actually go into their exams. And it makes it understandable. You get a shape and nudge on something you care about, and the money isn't dreadful. Asterisk. So, things I've done. I've done a bunch of stuff in the few years that I've been at that school. Some of that is trips, CTFs, got us recognised, started D&D Club. Rubber Ducks is making a reappearance here. And I bumped into a student, former student at Eastside Leeds. And again today. That is my bucket list happy place. It used to be, I used to think when I started teaching, I'd be awesome at one point in the future, bump into a student again, they buy me a pint or I buy them a pint, it'd be a nice, wholesome moment. That eclipsed it in an instant. If you wanted to retrain as a teacher, you get 28 grand tax free. I would repeat that again, 28 grand tax free. It's not an insignificant sum. And the requirements for that are automatic. If you wanted to go for the British Computer Society bursary, you get an extra 2 grand for writing an essay. I'm sure we can manage that. If you're interested, links at the bottom. That is the current state of teaching pay. It ain't great. It ain't dreadful. It's kind of in line with civil service, but for some of you, you will realise that it might take about 5 years to be on parity with a grad scheme at somewhere like Barclays. But it's a guaranteed and safe job, and it's guaranteed progression year on year. You're not having to fight and performance manage yourself. Some advantages, though, we get long holidays. You're only actually working 195 days out of any year. So you've got a lot of time for side projects, side gigs, whatever. Teacher's pension's decent. You'll be in really efficient training when you return to your workplace or if you go back into the sector. And it also makes it a lot easier to deal with clients because, as we know, clients can be a bit muppety. So actually being able to reframe things and explain things in a way that a year 7 would understand, actually sometimes quite beneficial. Every day is going to be massively different. If I take my last couple of weeks, one day I've had people really excited and happy because they've managed to get a place on some competition or something. Whereas other days, you have students crying that they can't integrate their Django container in Docker to the rest of their stack and really, really upset about it. In fact, that student has actually got a slideshow of all of the meltdowns and breakdowns that she's had over the course of doing that project with a lot of crying photos. But there's a lot of educational and student discounts that you qualify for. As a teacher, you have a school email address that is pretty much exactly the same as a student one, so you get student discounts. So GitHub, Microsoft Imagine, depending on where you work, Apple discount, Samsung. My phone was 10% cheaper just because I work there. And Unidays, Student Beans, etc. All of those are ones that you can use. As an industry, though, if you're thinking, no, teaching still is not a thing I want to do, I actually earn real money, thank you, you can support in other ways. Teaching is built on the fact that we need students to get work experience. You probably got where you are because somewhere along the way, someone gave you a bit of a chance to get into a place and see how the world works in that sector. And then you liked it and you stayed. You built connections. You could partner with a local school on a bigger level. Could be funding, could be talks, it could be anything. But events and talks are massively important, especially if you're in a position where you are a woman and you're in the sector. I definitely implore you to actually go in and share your life experience with them. Because, especially in a mixed school, it's the girls that are going to feel sidelined. In an all-girls school, everyone feels like they can contribute in the exact same ways. In mixed schools I've been at, they've not. There's been a couple per class, they've sat in a corner, never raised a hand, never said boo to a goose. All of the conversation in that classroom is being dominated by the male students. Give that guest lectures, sponsor events. There's organisations out there already like Computing Schools, Cyber First, Teach Computing, which are amazing for what you can actually do to help run a part of a CTF or provide some funding or an opportunity that could be there, like a summer programme or whatever. Could even just be throwing a bunch of stickers at the situation, because everyone loves stickers, as we know. It gets your name out there and it sticks in their mind, as well as onto the thing that they've stuck it to, what that company does and that it even exists as an opportunity for them. But coming back to going into schools, be a role model. Going in and actually showing your face and being there is the biggest impact. I've been quite quick on this. I did also start quite early, but I'm running 10 minutes before. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Sort of girls wanting to do drops to look in class. Where do you see the drop?
Yeah, so the question was... so the question was, the girls in a mixed class, where do I see the drop-off in them asking questions and feeling like they can contribute? It tends to be that the conversation is already very dominated by the male students. So there'll be scoffs, sniggers, and a lot of the problem is the male attitude towards the female students in those classes. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in schools to actually make it an accessible playing field for girls in tech or who want to get into tech. Some of it could be the answer of do segregated classes for particularly techie subjects. That's one option that I have seen proposed and done in other schools. Obviously, I'm in a position of privilege. I work in an all-girls school. Everyone shares equally. It all works. But in a mixed school, you've got that male ego that's going, oh, you don't know that? I do. And then they pipe up. Girls will be more studious and go off and find the answer themselves when they realise that they're not getting heard, whereas boys will just go, I didn't get the answer, meh. Any other questions? Yeah.
With AI coming, students use it more and more. How do you tackle something against that?
So the question was, with AI coming in and students using it, how do I work against it or work with it, work around? Yeah. It's a difficult question, and it's one that doesn't currently have a good answer. For me, I would like to be encouraging the use of generative AI a little bit, but utilising it as if you would use any other research source. It's great for doing things like, I've found some random code on GitHub. I don't understand what it does. Please explain it. There I see the amazing benefit to it. Might not explain it right, but it's up to you as a person or them as a student to actually verify what it is. And we talk about AI having hallucinations and AI not being trustable as a source. We're getting closer and closer to it being untrustable to trust but verify. And I think that's the way it's going to go. On the other side of it, do I see AI taking my job? Maybe. Maybe. There's going to be parts of it that are going to be automated and streamlined by it. But only as much as, in the same way that I don't carry around a physical paper mark book and physical paper registers anymore, I use Edulink, I use Sims, I use Excel to track marks. I don't have to touch paper much in my life anymore. We don't do class books. We use OneNote. It's one of those.
It's the idea of more of a hands-on approach to learning rather than do a lot of hands-on rather than just sort of like textbook-based with you and AI.
Yeah, so to come back was, so it's a lot more hands-on, and a lot of what I do particularly is very hands-on. One of the things in the things I've done, tick list thing, that I didn't mention but I feel is important to actually emphasize is I do make a point of emphasizing real-world network hardware, for example, because, I've got random rack mount switches knocking about because nerd. But I know not every teacher will have. And I know definitely not many teachers have even seen real network equipment outside of what's provided by Virgin Media, Sky, etc. And that is also the only frame of reference a lot of students have. So I do try and make it more hands-on, and yeah, we can use AI to kind of enhance that in some other ways, get it to reframe things in a way that they'll understand and get them to be a bit more independent and go off looking in different directions on their own rather than just expecting to be spoon-fed information and knowledge just so they can pass a test.
Do you think with the competitive market that is language models could allowing children or recommending children go off and verify the role of it? I understand the education system as well. I students sort of embrace it to the fact that.
So, to paraphrase the question, are we going to embrace AI? I hope so. But realistically, as a profession of people, I don't know how quickly. There are some teachers who are close-ish to retirement, not massively close, but maybe like 10, 20, 30, 20 years off. And they're thinking, new thing, not going to bother. It's not actually impacting my day-to-day. I can still teach as I am. Nothing has changed with art or music or whatever that I don't know already. So why would I utilise AI for that? It's going to make my life more difficult. I'm not going to be able to work out if it's a student's work or not. And that's the issue. It's going to go generationally. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Really insightful.